Now, we covered many, words and phrases that don't work, but we want words and phrases that work every time. In Kentucky, you'll find trails for everyone, hiking trails, horseback trails, mountain biking trails, a bourbon trail, a bluegrass trail. There's even a donut trail. And then notice their tagline, Kentucky kicks ass. Now, does that get your attention? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying you always have to use that kind of slang, but let's talk about effective marketing words and phrases. There are words that work, and what you're doing is using words that everybody doesn't use. There's words that say we're very different. It's fascinating, strange, odd, unusual, weird, rare, limited. Let me give you a couple of examples. I took an old ad from Abilene, Texas. This is the before ad. And of course, they have a train there. They're feeding a giraffe. Abilene, it's all about Abilene's number one attraction. It's the zoo, but it's just kind of jumbled. So I said, okay, before and after using these words, which one of these would get your attention? If I use flat out amazing, people would go, what? And then I showed a pair of white tigers, very, very rare. Meet Zumbinzoni, 2 of 1,000, captivating, rare, unusual, or downright odd creatures you'll ever see. And so close you'll either want to cuddle with a few of them or they will have you cringing. And then you put, where will you find it? Abilene Zoo. See what I mean? So there we used words like flat out amazing. That gets my attention. And we narrowed our focus down into what do you have that's different, because there's a lot of zoos out there. So those words are great words to use in your headlines. Okay, so let's go to the next set. Here's another one. The biggest, fastest, highest, best, lowest, the est, biggest, colossal, enormous, mammoth. These words are not overused. Oh, the famous this or that, miracle. Proven, these are great words to use that aren't overused, that you could put in your headline to really grab and pull us in. We're working in Northern Ireland, right when they opened up the Titanic experience. And I loved what they had to say. The Titanic experience isn't as good as the Titanic movie. It's better. Just by saying it's better, it's like, whoa. And it is absolutely incredible. So there you can see it. Okay, let's do another one. This is SugarLand, Texas. I'm picking on a few in Texas, and these are old. They've gone. I'm showing old ones. I don't show what they're doing right now. But here's SugarLand, and sweet surprises. They're playing up the whole sugar name. But once again, it was about the city, and then you've got a baseball game going. And it looks like there's a parade or something going. Then you see a dinosaur. Then it's just too much. And remember, this is like a half-page ad. I've blown up so you can see it here. So before, after, Sweet Tooth. We named the T-Rex Sweet Tooth after SugarLand. Sweet Tooth is waiting. When will you be here? And promote the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Which one would get your attention? I mean, this one, if you saw it in a half-page ad, or this one. Promote that one thing and use words like that. Here's superlatives that work. Absolutely amazing, exciting, outstanding. I mean, you can see this list coming these. And superlatives are great, particularly if you can put it in quotes from an outsider saying that it's absolutely amazing or absolutely spectacular. These are great words that you can use that will always pull us into your ads. Remember, that's what we're trying to pull people in. Greece, a masterpiece you can afford. We've got the Acropolis, the Parthenon, all of those things that you find in Greece. Here's another one. I mean, in Montana, they said there's nothing here, but a road called Going to the Sun, because it does. The Blackfeet stories, and they go on from there. So those are those kinds of superlatives that you can use. Words that evoke emotion are great. Revolutionary, revealing. These. Now, I'm not saying put a whole list of these words in your header, but you might have something there that you can use that promotes you. I mean, love this billboard promoting the Grand Tetons in Grand Teton National Park. Head north until jaw drops. See, those are words you don't see every day. I thought that was fantastic. Let me give you another one. This is Sonora, Texas. You know, this is before the caverns of Sonora. And once again, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got so many photos and so many things going on. I thought, why don't we use some superlatives instead? Why don't we redo it? Before, after. Fascinating, magical, jaw-dropping, beautiful. Sonora, we didn't even have to use her logo, sonoratexas.org. And then internationally recognizes the most beautiful, see, here we go, show cave on the planet, where 98% of the cave is still actively growing. See what I mean? And we did that in quotes because it is an actual quote. So that's how cool these things can be. So by that, we just really did our focus. We used those words and phrases to pull us in to not a whole lot of text, but pull us in. And then down at the bottom says, here's where you'll find us. You know, these are words and phrases. You know, this is Seguin in Texas. You know, your jaw will drop. And they have the world renowned Nutcracker. That's where they got that jaw dropping. You know, and we love the expressions of visitors caught unprepared for the real town. You know, and so once again, they use these superlatives. Go home with amazing stories. Really great job. And then there are words that deliver on a promise, approved, complete, endorsed by National Geographic, you know. And so this can work for, this might not be for tourism or downtowns, but these are words that deliver a promise. You know, I'll tell you, here's one that was their slogan for decades, FedEx, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. By adding absolutely and positively, they jumped up over UPS at the time. Now, nowadays, I noticed FedEx doesn't use that. And maybe it's because it's not absolutely positively anymore. Who knows? You know, but here's things you can do. I mean, the 7 wonders of Oregon. You know, they're always promoting their anchor tenants, and the wonders, doing wonders, I think is great, like the wonders of the world. They did 7 wonders of Oregon. That would pull you in. Even Utah doing the mighty 5, using the word mighty. That's the 5 national parks that are in southern Utah. And then when you read on, it'll tell you for the adrenaline junkie, solace seeker, one epic adventure, you're not dreaming. Excuse me. All these are words and phrases that aren't used every day that really can pull people into your marketing. Just a great job. I mean, I could even go on with ultimate. They use the word ultimate, unbelievable, dramatic, mythological. These are the words and phrases you need to start using that will set yourself apart, that will pull us into your marketing. And just remember, you must deliver on the promise when you use these words. If you say it's jaw-dropping and we get there and we yawning instead, it's going to be very short-lived. You can coin new phrases. Asheville coined the word foodie, you know, or culinary cool. Cleveland, you're welcome. You know, Chattanooga, one of America's most breathtaking cities, and that's a quote given them by a third party, not just because they said it. I mean, you might be editor's choice. You know, we're the poster child for something. And best of all, it's easy. You could use these. By the way, steal these ideas. Treat yourself. You're worth it. You know, once is never enough if you're trying to get people to come back time and time again. You know, get your fire back. Feel free to use these. Now, hopefully everybody won't start using them. Otherwise, they'll start to be generic. You know, but even in Cleveland, they said, we're not apologizing for anything and you're welcome. Art as an experience. You know, and always using third-party endorsements is always great. 2 thumbs up. You know, one of the 45 places to go in the world, Chattanooga, that was the New York Times, or that was awesome, exceptional. Wow. And you can take these from TripAdvisor reviews, Google reviews, they're third-party endorsements, and they're great. Or even this one, here's a rafting company. This is an ad they did before. And here it is after. I just took quotes right from their own review. It said epic, awesome, insane. And there it is, the #1 rated on TripAdvisor, nearly 30 years and still the absolute best. So by going from just the escape, reserve your space today, now we're telling people why you should pick them over anybody else. Just a few words and striking photos always carry a massive impact. Welcome to Prince Edward Island. It's just a sign that shows scenic views every direction. And by the way, you notice with all these, the location is down at the bottom. Get in touch with your outer self, and that's in Utah. I mean, that one photo, you go, wow, where's that? Or here you go. Roaming charges will definitely apply as you're roaming through, near Lake Powell in Utah. And so that's how important this is. Now, in closing, I have some suggested reading for you. You can download these. You can get the hard copies. I love Steve Cohen. He said the tagline must convey a genuine truth or depict an experience. And he said the line must be built to last. It should be rarely, if ever, changed. You don't go around changing your logos, your slogans, your taglines. You keep it there on for generations even. But Words That Sell, Brands That Grip Fans, and Sometimes Change History is a great book. It's a quick read. And he even did steal these ideas. These are two great books that I think are great. And I love what Steve does. I think they're fantastic. And with that, you've seen words to avoid. Now you've seen words and phrases to start using. You can come up with even your own. Just make sure that everybody else is not using them.